Welcome, Peter, to Metallidium Pages. It's a great pleasure to talk with you about Pain, this new album I Am, and more things related
Yeah,
to the metal world in general. Also, we spoke 3 years ago with the last album from my Hypocrisy. So I remember that super.
yeah, you're right.
So
Yeah,
let's start by asking. So, what were the reasons for the? I think a common question. So, what were the reasons for the delay of this new album? Because it was 8 years without the new album.
yeah. Well, I figure out since 2013 I made two Hypocrisy albums, two Pain albums, two Lindemann albums, one Joe Lynn Turner album, and a few productions work. So, and plus touring with three bands, that takes a lot of time from you, from planning to going on tour and everything around it. So unfortunately, uh, yeah, it took a while between both Hypocrisy albums and both Pain albums, but yeah, it was just insanely busy. But now it's only two bands, so this should be a much faster procedure, when it comes to fixing and writing stuff for new albums and stuff like that. So
Mm. Well, interesting to know. Well, talking a little more about this new album, the singles for this new album are great, by the way. The luxury
thank
guests,
you.
the luxury ways like the Peter Stommer is amazing.
Yeah,
The idea
yeah,
of the 80s or 90s in the style of an anime, like Akira,
yeah,
Ghost in the Shell, this kind of, like, etc., etc. So, how did
yeah,
the idea of having these singles with an well-known actor and this anime style come about?
yeah. Well, actually, with Peter Stormare, it was easy. I mean, we've known each other for, let's say, 15 years, maybe a little bit longer, 20 almost. And I brought him into Lindemann videos, two of them, we had. But I always knew somewhere that I mean, he likes Pain, and I really like how he acts and as a friend as well, So it was not so hard. The only hard thing was like, okay, let's find a song that fits both of us, and out of these songs that's on the album. So I feel the Go With the Flow is one of the more positive songs I ever written in my whole life. And also you get a little, in a good mood when you hear the song and stuff. And I wanted to have us driving in the car and stopping at gas stations and people going in and out of the back seat, but it was too complicated to make. You would need a huge fucking green wall behind you and things. So our director Andre came up with this idea to let's do a little bit Pulp Fiction here, let's do a little bit Fair and Loaded, and and so on, and Taxi Driver and things like that. So in the end, it turned out great, I think.
Mm, okay, okay, interesting to know.
Yeah,
So with this topic of animes, for the
yeah.
for one of the singles, Positive Posture. So what is your opinion about of the Asian world opening up to the world of the bands like baby metal, entering to the mainstream world of well-known bands within metal?
Why not? I mean, if there's good music, get it out. It doesn't matter where you're from. So, but when it comes to this animated thing, it was actually my manager Anna who found this guy that does animated stuff in this style. I was never really into it in the 90s, to be honest, but my friends were, and they, when they saw it, they were like, yeah, oh man, flashbacks from the 90s and so on. So I said, okay, maybe it's a good idea then. And it took them 2.5 months to make this video. So I
Wow.
had to give them the song kind of early stage, to make sure they were done in time. And they also did something with AI that I can't really remember exactly what it was. They had like an AI tool or something like that, but I think they still draw everything themselves. And I don't know if they got the AI to help them get it animated, you know, moving and so on. I really don't know how it was, but it was 2 guys and 2.5 months to make it.
Oh, wow, long time for that for this animated video. Interesting.
Yeah,
So interesting. So I speak a little more about Payne's career. I understand
yeah.
that from all interviews and information when I was searching for about the
Mm,
biography from Payne's, these bands started as a hobby. You mentioned sometimes, but
mm,
has been almost 30 years since this hobby became massive. Until recently, you toured or you did a tour in Latin America.
mm,
So
mm.
how does the Peter of now see the Peter of that time mixing these industrial ideas with metal at the beginning?
Uh, well, when I first started, it was after 3 albums with Hypocrisy. I was brought up on very wide music, anything from classic to Beatles, Elvis, Led Zeppelin, Slade, Kiss, you know, things like that in the 70s. Plus, I have an older brother that's 5 years older than me. So, you know, when you're 5 years old and your brother's 10, whoa, that's the big guys, you know. And they were listening to music all the time, and I was hanging around and things. So you got a lot of inputs in your head. So uh, in the end, I think it's like how what you've been listening to your whole life gets into your head somehow, and it becomes a huge jukebox or whatever you want to call it. And in the 70s, my dad was building synthesizers and stuff, so I was feeded with this electro music from him in the 70s, you know, like Jean-Michel Jarre and things like that, you know. So it's always been there, but it's been more of a in the beginning, yeah, like I said, after 3 albums with Hypocrisy, I wanted to do something else. And I discovered Goa trance and techno music, you know, with very distorted keyboard sounds. And that really triggered me. And I really wanted to do that stuff as well. But I didn't have the right keyboards and stuff. So I started putting guitars on top of it. And yeah, that's how it started with Pain.
Okay. Well, relating to this
Yeah.
question, and speaking of the Latin American, so how was your last tour in this part of the world? We were in Colombia covering the event, I remember that. So which country do you think was the most enthusiastic when singing the songs, oh, the Pain songs?
Oh, I would say the whole Latin. Actually, they're all good. When we go to Costa Rica, they go bananas. When we go to Mexico, they go crazy as well, bananas. And you know, Colombia, you name it. Chile, Brazil, Argentina, Ecuador. Um, they're all great, you know, in my opinion. They're much more loud and getting into it than any other continent of public, I think. And I think most of the musician can agree with me on that. You know, when you go to Latin, you know it's gonna be loud.
Okay, okay.
Mm.
Again, speaking, interesting to know. We were there in Colombia. Great show, by the way, at that time. Remember
Thank
also
you.
Suicide Machine, Shout Them Out.
Yeah,
Remember, great songs. But
yeah,
again, again, speaking of history, you started this project as a solo artist, and since
yeah,
Falls of Extinction, you have session members to support you in studio. So, what were the
yeah.
reasons for having this change of the status of the line in the lineup? So, and obviously, perhaps, and are they contribute with some creative process, or you still do everything?
Well, actually, I mean, uh, on I think it was Cynic Paradise. I took in Mickey D on drums on one song. Uh, Peter Evers from In Flames on bass on one song. Alexi Lio in one song, and that was like 2007 or eight. And then that was just like kind of one time thing, and then I just kept on going. And then when David was in the band, I asked him to put drums on You Only Live Twice album. But after that, so Sebastian did the drums on Coming Home. So nobody really influenced the music. There were just good musicians, put it that way. But on the new album, Sebastian wrote 2 songs. So that's the first time I kind of bring in someone into the album. And also, of course, he played drums on this album and the last album as well. And plus his songs, he plays all the instruments, and he set the sound for them. So he was the producer of his songs.
Mhm. Okay, okay, thanks for this.
Yeah.
Oh, you talk about industrial metal in the 90s and names like Pain, Rammstein, and Fear Factory
Mm.
appear on the scene of taste. So, what was like to have a recognizable sound in the world before at that time? And now, how do you see the bands like Electric Cowboy, Baby Metal, Ghost Kid, I don't know, a lot of band more finding this
Mm.
electronic and industrial element as an important part of continuing to expand metal? Even so, now that to this day, there are people who say that electronic and industrial things are things that don't belong to the metal.
Yeah, well, it's all opinion. I see when you have a really distorted guitar in there somewhere, it's metal. So, but I mean, I guess these bands, they're just uh, keeping the trophy alive. I mean, the fire alive, and they develop it themselves, like I did when I tried to make Goa trance. I tried to develop it so it became a little bit this more pain style or whatever you want to call it. And the same with the other old bands, they set they set the ground. I think I was never really influenced by any industrial music until, I don't know, end of uh 90s or something. So I wasn't into like Ministry or the Crooks before. That's something I discovered maybe 5, 10 years after I started Pain, because people started to telling me, "Oh, you sound like this band or that band," and I was like, "Oh," so I got curious to listen to them.
Mhm. Okay. Oh, returning to
Yeah.
the promotion to this new album, what are the
Hmm.
promotional plans do you have for Pain? For tours, more videos, or maybe new ideas for an album? Who knows?
Yeah, well, right now, 17th of May, the new album comes out, 11 songs. So we're gonna release at least one more single and one more video the same day, I think, actually, when we release the album. So if you go back all the way to Party in My Head, Revolution, these 2 new videos, and so it will be 5 videos minimum from this album. I wouldn't be surprised if we will end up in 7, 8 videos, but whatever. We want to go out and play everywhere, play the new songs for people and see how they react, see if they get into it. And we're doing a lot of festivals this summer in Europe, and then we hopefully go to America on a tour, and then we come back and do a Scandinavian tour, and then we're trying to go out in Europe again, with a new album. And of course, we want to go to Central and South America, but it's kind of hard. The promoters don't really believe in Pain, put it that way, in these countries. So the fans has to really kick their ass through so they can understand it. That's why last time now when we were there, we only did like 3 countries or something like that. It's because the other countries didn't want to do it, or they didn't dare, or it was already full. So I want to do like from the bottom to the ground, anywhere from all these places. But yeah, it's up to the local promoters to take it in or not.
Okay, okay. Terrific. Thanks for this
Yeah.
information. So, as I
Yeah.
said in the first question, talking about many things, oh, within
Mm.
the metal especially, and a topic that is closely linked or related to the musical style that you practice with Paint. Now there are many disagreements about the artificial intelligence in the world, but
Mm.
you started this project alone and did everything and used a lot of technology of that era at that time.
Mm.
So would you use this technology for the future of paint? Before you did it alone, and now the tools have improved on many levels, and you see festivals like Tomorrowland, etc., etc., where many artists are already using it for thousands of people's life of a few people realize this is like the well like using the artificial intelligence for the music.
Yeah, no, I don't do that. I mean, my whole point of writing music, you know, is like a gardener setting a seed and see how it grows and becomes something. You know, that's my whole. That's what triggers me to make music. You know, to see from a little small melody in my head how it expands and becomes something. You know, that's the whole thing. And also when it comes to lyrics, it's for, you know, especially with pain, it's so private, I would say. You know, it's very personal, most of the things, you know. So no, I'm not gonna do that, because for me it will make me lazy, and it will probably kill my inspiration, you know.
Okay.
So I'm pretty careful with that now.
Okay. Okay. It seems that metal is the only music style on the planet that can be mixed with any other style. An evil language, the native language, you can mix with the metal and still be interesting. Something that does happen with other styles, especially in rock in general. And you are one an example because you did everything with your bands, with hypocrisy, with the pain, with I don't know. You have a lot of bands playing as a guest musician also. So, how
Yeah.
do you see this overpopulation of mixtures within metal and the tremendous customization that the playlists have now created? Because thanks to that, the big names for the future will disappear because nobody hears the same artist. No, now that according to the playlist, there are people just listening these types of music, perhaps folk metal, perhaps industrial metal, who knows?
So what was the question again? Sorry.
Okay, okay. So, how do you see this overpopulation of mixtures in
Ah,
the
yeah,
3D
bingo.
metal?
Okay. Well, as always, when there comes a genre out, there becomes one band that gets very famous, and then a lot of bands, you know, newcomers try to sound like it. And then when they sound like it, all suddenly they started to develop their own little style. And then they become something, and then people steal from them, and whoever's, you know, steal the style, they develop it and they become a little bit different. I think, you know, the strong bands will survive. Good music will survive. And so I don't think it will matter so much if it's overfloated with bands or artists and things like that. I think it's easier today to write music for people, you know. And I believe also maybe for them it's also therapy, or at least a hobby to create music, you know. So in the end, I think good things will come out of it, like it did with you know, let's say Motorhead. What
Mm.
came out of Motorhead? Metallica, you know, Metallica, and what came out of Metallica? You know, you can just keep on going like that. So it's good with development. You know, you get new ideas from other people and you do your own thing, and in the end, yeah, maybe you're a part of creating a new style that, or a band that people really get into. So I mean, it's never any wrong with having a lot of bands around. You know, you get different kinds of vibes from all the bands in the end. And like I said, only the good ones will survive.
Mhm. Okay, okay. Thanks for this information. So we are very close to
It's just
finishing.
my point of, only my point of view, but that's how I see it, you know.
Yeah, yeah, okay, no, no, don't worry, don't worry. We're close to finishing this interview, Peter. So
Hmm.
metal used to be synonymous with strange, apart, rebellion, and more. I remember in the 80s and 90s, remember many declarations for Twisted Sister Singer, Iron Maiden
Mm,
created a number of the Beast songs, just a piece of
mm,
one song in the lyrics. No, it's not, it
mm,
was intentional at that time. So, but now, thanks to the social media and social networks and their
mm,
trends, metal has become tremendously commercially, especially the black
mm,
metal. Black metal bands
mm,
and their stereotypes like corpse paint, how to do a corpse paint on YouTube, on Facebook, etc., etc., and so on. This example, so on the social media. So, what's your opinion about the current situation of the metal that no longer represents that isolated detail or rebellion that the 80s, that 70s, 80s, and 90s has?
I think there are still some freaks out there, musicians, So I don't think that's a problem. I think it's like this, when one band gets popular, like I said, then other people want to do that as well, you know, and they change a little bit. I'll give you a good example with black metal. Black metal for me was Venom, Hellhammer, Celtic Frost, and things. And then in the 90s, there's new bands popping up, like Immortal, Dimmu Borgir, Mayhem. Well, Mayhem started very early, but Marduk, all these bands in the 90s started to come up. And then in 2000, other bands came up because of these bands. So it just keeps on developing all the time, And of course, black metal was really big, and then everybody wants to do it. It's the same thing if there's a music style, heavy metal in the 80s. Yeah, then everybody wanted to play heavy metal and have these pyramid belts and also the bullet belts and things like that. So I mean, it's just like when something gets big, you get a good following and everybody's doing it. And then it usually kills itself because it becomes overdone. And then something else pops up that everybody thinks is new and fresh, but it's probably recycled from the 80s or 90s or whatever, but in a different way. So yeah, in the 90s also you saw these black metal bands. All suddenly there was keyboards in there and keyboard melodies, and it was not brutal anymore in that way. It was more for gothic people, I would say, more dreamy stuff and things like that. So black metal became more gothic, I would say. And so it's just a natural way of developing it, because all people think different, maybe they're listen to Venom, it's like, oh, that would be cool with some keyboards. No, but you know what I mean. It's really hard to say how people were thinking those days. Maybe they wanted to do what they liked, plus they wanted to do something different. So then a new style comes out, and I think you're going to see this forever.
Okay, well, yeah, yeah. Okay. One of the
Yeah.
last questions is I did tell that today is based on each, well, no, in situations of the band overpopulation, is that some musicians sets over the media that they have that for the new musicians they then have to need a backup plan because being a musician today does not have the same impact as the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And musicians like you already have some status on the music industry with all your bands, with all your music, etc. So for this kind of aspect, so what advice you give to the new musicians that start to be next hypocrisy, next pain on their careers for the future?
I would say keep on writing music, because I think like if you are in the beginning, you your songs will only get better and better when you write. You get smarter how to write them to make yourself really happy. And always, a friend of mine said when I was a kid, like he listened to my demo. I was 15, and it's like, "Would you buy this?" When we were listening to it, nah. See, it's not good enough. So you have to tell yourself, would I buy this when I listen to my demos? And for the second is don't get a manager, get a good booking agency. That's the most important thing in the world, because if you don't get out, you're not there. And I mean, you can say, yeah, but internet and all the digital media stuff. Yeah, but it's so much. So nobody really there. If you scroll down, there's shitloads of new bands putting out ads for their things on Spotify or Apple or whatever, So you kind of drown in this whole scrolling thing. So I think it's more important to try to open up for bigger bands when they come to your town and things like that. I think it gives you more. First, you have to start from where you're from and build up something, because then you get a buzz for the next town. Oh, they're good in this town. They say they're good. So you keep on moving like this. And I think this is the only way today. Of course, on digital medias as well. Do blogs, do have some friends filming you guys when you play live in front of people, if you're opening up for a little bigger band or whatever. Just keep on going, and like I said, just write and practice.
Mhm. Okay. 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 One of the last questions for this interview, Peter, is now,
Mm,
as you can see, the people are more related with the digital platforms. A lot of people
mm,
trying. It's not like the sales of the CD is not anymore like that. So like the
yeah,
80s, 90s, etc. So for
yeah.
you, obviously, you did have a career selling CDs, live gigs.
Mm.
So for this aspect, how do you now can see those? How do you see the success, or how do you see the success for a new musician? Because with you, for you, I bought a lot of CDs for your band, for Hypocrisy, for Pain. But
Oh,
now
thank you.
there are people can buy anymore a CD, an album, just singles, or
Yeah,
just put the Spotify and hear the music. So now,
yeah.
how do you relate the success in the world? Is hearing a lot of players on Spotify, on Tidal, or
Mm.
perhaps selling CDs? How do you conceptualize the term success for a musician?
Well, I think the success comes from inside first. First, you got to feel that you're very proud of what you're doing. Uh, and the vinyls are exploding right now. I can tell you that because we already tried with Hypocrisy, this chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3 thing with new vinyls and remastered, and it's insane. It sells out all the time. People really like the physical stuff today. Even cassettes. We're printing cassettes as well. Because people like it. I'm sure 50% is just a souvenir to have. And 50% actually put it on their vinyl player and listen to it. So I think, you still, if it's important to make money, then I think you can do it anyhow in one way or another. And plus, the digital platform, you got to make sure whoever you sign with doesn't rip you off, because all the labels pretty much get the same money from digital platform, but it's then when how much percent they take from it, then of course, it doesn't pay too much to have one listening on Spotify or whatever, but it brings you more distribution in the world. More people can hear you, and that is far better for us now than when we were selling CDs. We only reached out to the metal people. Nowadays, there's so many people that can listen to these things by accident and get into it, and so on and so on. So I don't think it's over with this, and I think it's going to change a lot also in the future with the digital platforms for the musicians, to composers, to make sure they get better paid.
Mm.
But it starts with your record company first, what you have in digital royalties, for sure.
Mm. Okay. Well, Peter, the sad times arrive at this interview. I hope you enjoyed
Hmm.
this one like me. As I mentioned, one of,
Yeah.
no, I didn't mention. I mentioned in hypocrisy interview, you are one of my heroes since I was a teenager. I remember hearing the first song.
Oh,
Really, really,
yeah. No, I can't remember that, but thank you very much. Now I remember that. Thank
really
you.
one
Thank
of
you.
one of my heroes. So since what? Well, since the beginnings of 90s. Well,
Yeah.
congratulations on this new record. I am. It's a great one, as usual, is from your career. And perhaps do you want to
Thank
add
you.
something to your Latin American fans and obviously Metalerium followers?
Yeah. We want to come back. Get your ass to the local people and tell them, let's do it, because I really hope we can come back around December or January or February or something like that. But we don't just want to do one country. We want to do more, when we are there. Like I told you, like Peru, Bolivia, you name it. You would just go from the top and down. Because, yeah, it's one of my favorite places to tour,